I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you very much. And you are indeed getting ready to meet somebody that is truly invincible. You've met her before. I've told you she's coming back on the program. We have Angela Ward from Austin, Texas, the Texas Tornado. Angela, how are you?
Hello, my dear. I'm doing wonderful. How are you? It's so good to be with you guys.
Thank you very, very much. Now, you all know that Angela is our consultant. She is our team member. She leads us through the path of business on a year in and year out basis. A really, really, absolutely amazing personal friend. And she and I got some news last year that wasn't exactly the most pleasant news on the planet. And she was up to do a consult in our office and spend time. And she shared with me your information that you had been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Correct. Discovered during just a yearly checkup. No sign or symptoms. Just go in and have my checkup and go have my mammogram. And there you have it.
And so when you got this news, you had not shared it with anybody. You were on your way up to come visit us and spend time in our office. And you know, she stays, we're family. She stays with me at my house. And so, we had some quiet time together and you shared that information, and it was pretty much devastating for you and for all of us. And so that began a journey, and that really is what I want us to talk about. In that, my listeners, I've been telling them that you not only are you incredibly smart, but you are an absolutely fervent researcher. And you started going through the research, but you went to probably the mecca of cancer therapy, and that's the MD Anderson Cancer Institute in Houston, Texas. And what did they tell you?
Well, MD Anderson in Houston, first of all, before we go anywhere, Dr. Shoup, I want to make sure all your listeners know that what journey they go on, what they feel is right for them, is what's right for them. The journey I went on, I feel is right for me. And this by no means is a judgment call in any way. It just is to pass along the data to hopefully help someone know that there's a different alternative if they wanted to pursue that. So, of course, I get the diagnosis, and I myself in my line of business have many times sent people to MD Anderson. It's the place to go. And I went there. They're extremely thorough. I had the wits scared right out of me. And they are there to do research, and they're there to find out how something works with something else. And fortunately, in my world, I have been blessed to be around people such as yourself, Bob Fraser, who I work for, and many other people in the world of holistic medicine or leading edge medicine. Susan Maples is another one. And, I got to tell you, when you get that diagnosis and you go to some place like MD Anderson and you find out, pretty much it's a one size shoe fits all. And it was very frightening. And I was just determined that I was not going to do anything to my body that would tear it down. And so I researched tons of information available on the website that I didn't know was there. And I don't know that other people know is there as well. And so basically the way that I came about all of this is I contacted some clinics outside our country and sent them all of my records, did all of my consultation with them via telephone. And they actually, 2 of them sent me treatment plans. And ironically, they were very similar, 2 different countries. And so then I get on Google and I start looking for the type of treatments that they had recommended, but I wanted to find some place in the United States, if I could, that did those same types of treatments. And so I was lucky to find very few clinics, but I was lucky to find one that I really resonated with and ended up going to out in Scottsdale, Arizona. But my journey started with my mindset that this was not going to control my life. It wasn't going to control my decisions. It wasn't going to control my work. It wasn't going to control my attitude. And sometimes that's a hard day to fight against. But that was the journey that I was determined to be on. And the second part of that was that everything that I did had to support keeping me healthy. And that meant everything from obviously diet change to exercise to the medical treatment that I sought. And you're right. I went against the grain. I went against the grain with a lot of people who I love and respect. For instance, my own partner. It was really tough to have those conversations that said, I'm not going to do what all of these experts say. I have to find another set of experts.
You're listening to the Dr. Randy Shoup Show. I'm your host, Dr. Randy Shoup, and that is my good friend, Angela Ward. You and I have talked to her before, and she's describing her journey after being diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, for clarification purposes, was your breast cancer anything particularly unique or special, or pardon the description, but was it basically your garden variety of breast cancer? Was there anything unique about yours?
Well, I don't know so much that it was unique, but for me, it was unique in that there is no one in my family that has had breast cancer. I had no signs or symptoms of it. I have been on estrogen replacement therapy since I was about 19. So that was I want to say 35 years. But it's important to understand that that's not what caused it. For me, it was trying to unravel the parts and pieces of how come did this happen to me? And while MD Anderson offered me some information, they didn't offer me the cause. And that was the drive I was on. That was the journey I was on, because without finding the cause, I knew that this, even if I solved the temporary problem, it would be coming back. So unique for me, there was a couple of unique factors, but in that, early on in my young years, as early as 19, my body started to fail me. And so, things real simple, hysterectomies and gallbladder and all those sorts of things. Well, your body shouldn't do that. And so thank goodness for hanging out with people like you, because I was driven to find out why was this happening.
And so you mentioned something really interesting, in that your body was failing you, and that you had a hysterectomy at a very, very young age, and you'd had gallbladders and gallbladder attacks and that sort of thing. But at the time, you and I've talked about it, you really didn't recognize those things as being particularly out of the normal. You didn't recognize them as, hey, my body is doing something bad. You said, well, I'm just young and I've got, I need a hysterectomy and that's just the way it is. And everybody kind of writes it off and you go forward. Hey, my gallbladder's failing. Well, that's just the way it is. You write it off and you go forward. You never really put the pieces together that indicated that, hey, this is telling me something, and nobody was listening.
And that was the biggest probably frustration now looking back. Back then, I didn't. I just thought, well, this is just how it is. And no doctor ever sat down and said, wait, we got to figure this out. This shouldn't be happening. There's got to be a cause somewhere. It's kind of like with teeth. Teeth don't break. They're made not to break. Your body is made to be healthy. Your body is made to heal itself. And so when there's something that's going amiss like that, there was no one there to put the puzzle pieces together. And at the end of the day, when I did find someone to do that out in Phoenix, in Scottsdale, at Sunridge Medical Center, the pieces were not that hard to put together. They were actually very basic things, but no one had ever stopped to say, why is this happening?
So, MD Anderson, you went down and had your full run-up and diagnosis and everything, and they prescribed for you what course of treatment?
The pretty much standard, everybody gets the same kind of treatment as what I felt. The surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation.
So the standard, you're going to go in and have surgery. They're going to do a lumpectomy rather than doing a mastectomy.
Correct.
Okay. They'll then run you through a course of chemotherapy.
18 weeks.
18 weeks of chemotherapy. You will probably lose your hair.
Absolutely. Lose your hair. There was a long list of what could have happened.
And let me tell you, she has spectacular hair, as red as can be, and it's all hers, and it is absolutely spectacular. That had to have been, you would look like me. This is not a good thing.
Which wouldn't be so bad, but
No, it's not going to be a good thing. You would have radiation therapy, which would then be really localized around where they did the surgery, but you will have burning, you'll have scarring.
Coloration, tissue issues, all sorts of, you're burning your body.
And it will be deforming to you.
Yes, potentially. Change. And of course, not to mention the effects of it on my everyday life.
Okay.
And then, at the end of the day, it's not about vanity and those sorts of things. It's about what's the payoff of going through this, frankly, hell, if you will. And people who have been through it would phrase it that way. And in my research, and I did a lot of research, guys, chemotherapy has at best a 7% chance of improvement. Fortunately, I was able to find a doctor. There's a test, and for all your listeners, females, if you come up with breast cancer, fight to have the Oncotype DX test. The Oncotype DX test is the test that will tell you if chemotherapy would have been a benefit for you or would be a benefit for you. It happens after you have your surgery. They do the test on the tumor after, so it's outside your body. And for me, even after going to MD Anderson, and MD Anderson wouldn't do the test, they just wanted me to go through the chemo. When we finally got the test back, my improvement rate by going through 18 weeks of chemo would have been 1%.
So you would have gone through all of that for only a 1% advantage in your overall survival rate, your overall cure or improvement rate.
Exactly.
And so you would have lost your hair,
lost your hair. It could have cost, the infections or the, other things that it could have cost me. It was just the improvement on that. And one of the biggest things that I learned in this process is when they do research on something, it is to answer one particular question, which is, for instance, will it destroy this cell? Yes, it will destroy that cell, but they don't really explore past that point what else it destroys. So it's kind of like, go be the bull in the china shop, but don't look at anything else that you've broken except the glass on the table. And so, again, there's so many more ways to approach this. I chose to find a way that would support my body instead of tearing it down. And for a 1% increase, this was written up in a document back in October of 2014, that the best that they've got right now is a 7% improvement. And so I'm banking on things much stronger as far as supplements and therapies that are made to build your body up, to help your body fight what this malfunctioning part of your body is. It happens for a reason. Something goes haywire. It is at a cellular level. And you got to go fix that. And as my doctor in Scottsdale told me, Dr. Franco, he said, if you go and have the surgery and you remove the tumor, that's terrific. You've removed the tumor, but you haven't removed the cause. And you're leaving yourself wide open for something else to come back, because you have to find the cause. And I will tell you, they are relentless in looking for the cause.
You're listening to the Dr. Randy Shoup Show. I am your host, Dr. Randy Shoup, and that is my good friend Angela Ward. She's describing her journey through breast cancer, and she's on the other side of it now and telling you about how she decided to take some alternative therapies that were what she decided was in her best interest. And so you had traditional surgical therapy, removing the lymph nodes that are associated and radiating from the tumor. It was a lumpectomy. You did not have the entire breast removed. And once they got out to a clean margin, is what they call it, when they get out to where the lymph nodes no longer have any cancer cells in them, then you called it a day in terms of the surgical intervention. You then hightailed it out to Scottsdale, Arizona. And what did they do for you there at looking for the cause?
Yeah, at Sunridge, I actually went to Sunridge even before my surgery. I was compelled, as you know, I was planning to go to Africa with you last year. And all of this happened right before our departure date. And I could not sleep until I had this answer. And so I actually went out there even before my surgery, which was unique in that most people go to Sunridge Medical Center, or I think it's called Sunridge Wellness Center, after they've already gone through the traditional. And so they go out there in a weakened state most often. So I wanted to go out there as healthy as I possibly could before I started anything. And so I actually had 2 treatments prior to any surgery. And then I went out for subsequent treatments after that. And when I say treatments, it's interesting because, again, you have to remember, much like you, my only comparative of what cancer treatment is what I saw at MD Anderson. And bless those poor people's hearts. They are fighting with everything they've got, but it was very scary. And I did not want to be like that. And so going out to Sunridge, they did a whole battery of tests that were totally different than any of the testing that MD Anderson did. Both of them were valuable. The one that Sunridge did for me gave me the cause, what started this for me. And for me, it was something as simple as a virus that the majority of us have, but mine just happened to be off the chart. And that virus happens to be Epstein-Barr. And I don't know how off the chart, I don't know, comparative wise, my numbers are extremely high for Epstein-Barr, which then allows my whole body to start dysfunctioning. There's a couple of other things in there as well, but that for me was the biggest one. And so all of my therapies were designed around treating that and also treating recurrence to make, do everything we could to make sure that this doesn't come back. Everything is done IV wise for me. And it was, these are not things that are new. Chemotherapy started in 1971. So I was almost out of high school when chemotherapy came onto the medical scene. The treatments that I'm having have been around since the 1800s. And so I was really frustrated with why is it that people don't know about these? And as my doctor, both of my doctors, one in modern medicine and my doctor in Scottsdale shared with me, is if it cannot have a clinical trial behind it, it will not make it into your modern medicine office. So no one is going to do a clinical trial on vitamin C or glutathione or vitamin D because no pharmaceutical company can do anything with that. They can't patent it, they can't sell it. And at the end of the day, this is my personal belief, is so much of this is driven by pharmaceutical companies and how much can they push and how much can they sell. So my treatments out at Sunridge are high doses of vitamin C, 55,000 units, I think is what I'm up to right now, mixed with glutathione and alpha lipoic acid. Not mixed with glutathione, it's with alpha lipoic acid. Then I have glutathione. I had IVs of curcumin, resveratrol, and Helixer, which happens to be mistletoe, vitamin D in high doses, and what else did I have? I think that was pretty much, oh no, my most favorite part, my blood, where they take my blood and actually just a little bit of blood, and they actually put ozone in it. So something that we're very familiar with in the dental practice, and it takes your blood. Obviously, cancer cannot live in oxygen, And so the more oxygenated your blood is, the stronger it is for you. So that was probably my most favorite part, is to see my blood go from a very, very dark purple to a very, very bright red. And measures all sorts of, I can't remember how they call it or what they call it, but the thickness of my blood, as it turns out, I had very, very thick blood, and I had a tremendous amount of inflammation. And so with those things, Epstein-Barr, thick blood, lots of inflammation, my body was set up perfectly to start failing me. And basically my liver got to the point where it couldn't process the things that were going through my body, both from an estrogen, progesterone side of things to all the other things that were going through, and starts toxic. And there you go.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. It is, you've been through a harrowing experience for sure, but you've really, I mean, the amount of research, the perseverance, your resistance, you didn't just simply succumb to the normal, click whir automatic sort of a thing. You had to make this path make sense to you and work for you. And it is it's an exercise in strength that I'm confident most people don't know that they can do.
And you can, and that's my message. You and I've talked many times about how I'm just committed to helping anyone else get on this path, because here's what I've seen. And if you're there and you want to talk about this, you call me at any point in time and we'll sort it all out. But what I've seen, and this is a sad state of our affairs as well, is when patients get a diagnosis like this, you're scared to death to start with. You just can't even think. Your lizard, in emotional intelligence, your lizard is just flying all over the place, and your thoughts are very irrational, and you're very scared. And so it's hard to even put a thought together. And then you have doctors telling you, well, this is the only thing. And I remember asking my doctor at MD Anderson, there's got to be an alternative. There has to be something different. You just gave this diagnosis and the same treatment plan to the person before me, and the person after me is probably going to get the same thing. There has to be something different. And she's like, no, this is all there is. And I said, well, that's not for me. And that's where we parted. But it's a matter of, our medical system is set up to where chemotherapy and radiation and all of those things would have been covered under my medical insurance. The treatment that I'm doing at Scottsdale at Sunridge is not covered. And so people so often feel so hopeless that they can't do something that's not covered by insurance. And I'm not saying that you can. I'm not saying that you can. I'm just saying don't turn away from that just because of that reason, just because your insurance doesn't cover it. Find a way. There's ways. You can find a way. But don't allow your body, unless you just really feel that that's the right choice for you, don't choose that because that's what your insurance company carries or what they'll cover for you. And that was probably one of my most heartbreaking things to see is when I talk to people is they're like, well, my insurance company will cover chemo and radiation and all of the drugs that will, be there for me and all that. But that's not what I want. So don't give up hope is the first thing. The second thing is that your attitude is everything. You have got to go into this knowing that you are going to come out on the other side. And I wish I could say that there's a cure for it. This is the closest thing to a cure, I believe, because it gets your body straightened out in a way in which it can fight the good fight. Whereas you don't have your immune system knocked down to the ground, and then you have to fight from the ground floor up.
You're listening to the Dr. Randy Shoup Show. I'm your host, Dr. Randy Shoup, and I want all of you to know, I want you to go to the website at ddsradio.com, and there is an Ask the Expert button. I want you to click that button, send me a message, give me your information, and if you want to communicate with Angela, if you have somebody that has just been diagnosed with breast cancer, somebody who is going through this journey, somebody who wants to think about doing something slightly different. Angela has already consented to be an absolute mentor and help to you and share with you what she has found in all of her research so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So go to ddsradio.com. click the Ask the Expert button. Give us your information. I will make sure, it's my personal pledge to you, I will get that information to Angela, and trust me, she does not leave a leaf unturned, and she will get back with you. And so we're going to have to go, but what I want to do is I want us to come back together in a couple of weeks here. What I want to do is take off from the point now that you're doing your therapies out at the Sun Ridge Wellness Center, you're doing the ozone, you're doing the mega vitamin therapy, how I want us to pick up that story and talk about how that goes for you and where you are with everything now, because they're still pushing you to have radiation. I know that, and that's a whole other chapter that we'll talk about. So, Angela, thank you very, very much. You have been absolutely amazing. I really appreciate it.